What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and we're back again for another episode of the fighting game tutorial series. In today's episode we're going to be going over cleaning up our game mode even further. So our game mode is very nearly done. I believe this is actually the last step that I wanted to cover before we get into our more advanced topics. Recently we've been covering a lot of cleanup in our game because after all of our episodes we have a lot of logic that is either not optimized or not as good as I would like it to be for our more complex topics like rollback netcode, online play in general, story mode, AI, and all these different things that we've recently been working on. The game mode has been an area of focus and we've done a lot with this. We've cleaned up almost all of our logic by converting it from blueprints to code and consolidating it. There's a little bit more that we have to cover, and this is a big one. It is our spawn players and our determined character class functions. These functions determine where our character is going to spawn and which character they're going to be in our game. This is all done in the blueprint before. I would like to do this in the code, and it's going to be quite a bit of work. We're probably going to split up into 2 episodes just because of the actual amount of content that's in here. But we will be converting it to code, or at least the vast majority of it to code. Now, before we get started, if you want to get caught up in the series and check out how we've done everything from our super moves, our throws, our different attacks, our input buffer, our game mode, and a whole lot more, I'll link you to the entire fighting game tutorial series right here in the top right corner. Alternatively, if you don't care about that and you only care about cleaning up your game mode or having a clean game mode in your game, you don't have to watch the whole series to follow along with this episode, but I do recommend that you watch the previous game mode cleanup episodes. I go over a lot of reasons for why I'm doing this in those episodes, and that's going to be relevant for today's episode, but also relevant for keeping a clean game mode in general. I'll go ahead and link the episode where we initially were cleaning up the game mode significantly right here in the top right corner. Now with that said, we can go ahead and get started. This is a code and blueprint tutorial series. We're going to be converting logic from blueprints to code and consolidating that logic and improving upon it. So we're going to be working in both. Let's start out by going into our blueprint game mode. Content, blueprints, functional BPs, game modes, default game mode BP. When we come in here, you'll see that our event graph is so much smaller than it used to be, and it looks quite good. As I mentioned, we have our functions that we want to cover for today's episode, and the big one is spawn players. So let's go ahead and go into spawn players. Now there's a lot of logic in here, but this is a function that takes in the spawn point, or the actor, where we're going to spawn. We use player starts in our levels to determine where the characters spawn at. We get those actors and then we get the player start tag because they are marked as P1 and P2. So we know this character should spawn here or this character should spawn here based on which player is controlling them. If it's P1, then we go ahead and continue with our logic using the transform of the player start to determine which character class we're going to spawn. We do this by getting our game instance, determining which player we are, player 1 or player 2, and then determining which character class they selected in the character select screen, or however we've assigned these values. Like if we're in a story mode and we're guaranteed to have to play a certain character, this would be assigned in that story mode, and so this would still apply. And at this point, we determine which value that enum is and then spawn the corresponding character. The only thing that we can't do in code right now is spawn these classes because these classes are blueprint classes and we don't have access to them in the code. We could get access to them in the code, but we really don't need to. As long as we have this enum, we could still spawn this part in the blueprint. We have a few different options. But after we determine which character class to spawn and actually spawn it, we set it equal to our active team 1 character. This is a fighting game tutorial series that supports tag mode, so this is just our active character or our main or first character. Then we possess that character. We set the character that's being possessed on our base player controller, saying this is our possessed pawn. Then we add the character to the team, and we do some other logic for tag mode here. I don't want to go too far ahead because this is already a lot. With player 2, you have a few different things that we consider. Like for example, in certain modes, we spawn an AI controller over a regular player controller. So that's something to consider. And then also we do the tag mode stuff in here. For this initial episode, I would like to get all of this section here out of the way, as well as determine character class, or most of determine character class, and setting the character and possessing them. We can do more than that, of course, but we'll probably do all the tag mode stuff in another episode, in its own episode, because that is more logic. And we may also hold off on some of the player 2 behavior here. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So let's start off by creating a function that we can use to spawn players. It's called spawn players, but we really only spawn one player in solo mode or multiple characters for our tag mode. That's what we were doing at the end here that I said I would go over later. But I would like to make this function in code just spawn player or spawn character, because I think that's a better name for it. So let's go into our code, and that's our game mode. So we want to go to our code game mode class, which is going to be fighter template game mode.cpp and fighter template game mode.h. Let's go to our functions and let's make a function for spawning the character. We can make it blueprint callable, so we can still call it from the game mode BP if we want. And I'll put it above start match because these are slightly ordered by the actual match flow. Like you'll see we have start match, reset match, start round, end round, round one, match one. So I think up here will be pretty good. And we'll say spawn a character. U function blueprint callable. So we can call it from the blueprint. Now this function doesn't return anything. So this will be a void function, void spawn character. And it does take in the actor of where to spawn the character. So the way it works is in our event graph, when we're ready to spawn these characters, we get all actors of class and we get the player start class. We loop through each of them and then spawn characters there. We can just pass in a player start, or if you want, just a regular actor like we were doing there. If you want to be able to spawn characters at things that aren't player starts, you don't need to pass in a direct player start. You could pass in a actor. I think even in story mode and online mode, having a place to spawn the character is a good idea. And a player start can just be indicative of that, if nothing else. It doesn't have to actually do anything or even hold a player start tag. It can just be representative of where we want that character to spawn. I'll go ahead and leave it as a player start for the time being. If we want to change it later for any reason, of course we can. A player start pointer, and we'll call this player start. And that is our function. So now we can go up to fighter template game mode.cpp, go to where we want to create this function in the code. I will put it above reset character health here. Say void a fighter template game mode : spawn character. And it takes in that a player start pointer player start. Put our curly braces and then we're ready to go. Now, in the blueprint, we had received just an actor object reference and cast it to player start. You'll notice we did nothing on cast failed, which is why I just passed in a player start. So this is already taken care of. The next thing that we did was determine what our player start tag said. In fighters, you're probably only going to need 2 player start tags because you can do everything with your assists and your tag mode off of that information as well. But if you want to support more, of course you can. We can make this really simple right now and simply grab our data based on the P1 and P2 tags that our player starts may have. Now, when we come into this function, it is a good idea to check if player start is valid just to make sure that it is before we try and use it, because if we use it and it's not valid, it will crash. The next thing we want to check is the player start tag, and we want to compare it against the hard-coded values that we know we're going to use, which are P1 and P2. We don't really need to make it more generic than that because this is our setup. These are our stages. This is how we're going to be designing all of our stages and all of our situations. If player start arrow, we can't get our player start tag yet. If we try, we won't be able to because we're getting errors saying pointer or reference to incomplete type is not valid or is not allowed. And so if we come up here, we need to include the file that gets us access to a player start. We will want to include game framework /player start.h. That gets us access to the class, and we can come back to our if player start here. If player start arrow gets player start tag, or just player start tag, it's not a getter, my bad, equal, and for our string it's just P1. And we can have an else if here, if player start tag equal P2. So this already takes care of our branches that we had in spawn players. This whole section is now taken care of. The next section is our determine character class section. So determine character class is that other function I was telling you about that uses the game instance to determine which character class to spawn. This part will stay the same, but let's make a function for it in code so we can prepare for it. Go back into fighter template game mode.h. go below spawn character. We'll make a new function here. Spawn a character class at a given location, or given transform. We'll make it U function, and again for now we'll make it a blueprint implementable event so we can call it in the code where we want without ruining our logic, and then we'll convert it to code after. So void spawn character class. It is going to take in the same parameters. This takes in an f transform right now and an end player index. So f transform, spawn transform, and integer player index. Since we're doing this in the code, we can clean this up significantly as well by making this f transform a constant reference. It means it will utilize the data that's passed into it instead of making a copy. We've gone over this a little bit in our cleanup episodes, but essentially this is significantly better than just doing f transform. You create half as much memory by doing it this way. You don't want to do this for every variable type, and we're going to talk about this more in the future, so don't worry, I haven't gone over it with a lot of our variable types yet, but it's extra important with large types like f transforms. Anyway, here's spawn character class, and since it's a blueprint implementable event, we can simply call it in here, spawn character class. We will pass in the player start get actor transform, and we'll pass in our given index, which can be 0 for player 1 and 1 for player 2, just like this. And in our else if, we're going to copy and paste it, but we're going to pass in a 1 instead. Make sure this is not void, but rather a fighter template character pointer. We're returning a fighter template character pointer. But when we do this, we won't be able to make this a blueprint implementable event, so we are going to just have to bite the bullet and do it now to make this blueprint callable. What we'll do instead is make this function now a fighter template character pointer, a fighter template game mode, spawn character class, and we'll take in that constant f transform reference spawn transform and integer player index, and we will just have it do nothing right now. We'll have to convert it to code after today's episode. Now going back into the editor, we will leave this alone for now. We'll just assume that we're handling this later. But we do know that this function is going to return a character, and that's what we were setting to active team 1 character or active team 2 character respectively. That we can do now regardless. So after calling spawn character class, we set active team 1 character equal to it. And in the else if, we set active team 2 character equal to it. Then we were getting the first player controller and possessing it. With player 2, it was a little bit different because we were determining what player controller or what type of controller to spawn based on the mode. We were choosing between versus and AI. We can improve this logic a little bit, but let's just go down the player 1 path for right now. So for player 1, we just want to get the first or the default player controller and possess it. This is probably fine logic to keep. The default player controller or player index 0 is going to be player 1, and this will really be true for multiplayer sessions as well. If we go into our code and go below our spawning of our character, we can simply get the first player controller. And to do this, we can use get world get first player controller parentheses, and this returns a player controller. So we can say a player controller equals, and we'll make this a pointer called player controller. And we can actually do one better than this. So we were using that controller to possess this character and then casting it to a base player controller and setting the possessed pawn. Since we were casting it to base player controller anyway, we can cast it first when getting it instead of casting it after and then call possess on it. To be completely honest, we don't really need this to be a base player controller. I know we set the possessed pawn on it, but player controllers have their pawn. I had made a separate variable for this and I've been tracking it. It's not really hurting anything, but it's a little bit extra. For the sake of today's episode, I'll keep it the same, but improve it by casting when we get it. So a base player controller pointer, we'll call this base player controller. We're going to set it equal to cast a base player controller, and we're going to put the get world, get first player controller in parentheses. Then we'll put this whole thing inside of an if statement. If we're able to get the world and get the first player controller, and if that's able to be cast to a base player controller, then it will be put into this variable. If it's put into this variable, this if statement will return true, and then we will go into this logic right here. So at this point, we can say base player controller possess, and if we want to pass in active team 1 character. This is where we would also say base player controller possessed pawn equals active team 1 character. Again, this is a bit overkill since the player controller does actually know what pawn it's possessing. And you can see this by doing base player controller get pawn. This is not a function we made. This returns the pawn that is possessed by the player controller. So we can clean up our player controller by removing this and just using get pawn here. We're not going to do that today because that's in the player controller, but just be aware of that. At this point, we've copied all of this over successfully. The next thing to do and the last thing to do before getting into the tag mode stuff is to add this character to our Team 1 characters array. This is useful mainly for tag mode. It doesn't hurt to have your active Team 1 characters array with one character in it for solos, so I ended up doing it before we go into tag mode, but it's extra useful in tag mode. To do this, we can do Team 1 characters dot add unique and pass in that active Team 1 character. Alright, and this is all the logic we need to do to spawn a character for player 1. Technically, we haven't filled out spawn character class yet, but we will in the next episode, and we will also do the player 2 stuff in the next episode as well. Also, before you build next, we need to make sure that we return something for this spawn character class function because it does expect a pointer. Even though we're filling out the logic for this in the next episode, we can return a null pointer for now just to have some basic behavior so we can build. Then once we do that, we can handle our tag mode behavior in here. And then once we've done all that, our game mode will finally be ready for our online code, rollback, AI, and future improvements we want to handle. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of converting blueprints to code from our game mode and cleaning it up a bit while we're in there. If you did, please subscribe and consider joining the Patreon, YouTube membership, or Discord subscriptions to help support the channel. I really appreciate all who have. Thank you guys so much. If you ran into any problems following this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. There is a link in the description, and that support is completely free. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.